Welcome, all you Contras and G Camp aficionados. I am here today with HP. HP is a friend of mine that I have met at G Camp, and some of you guys know him. Some of you don't. And we are going to have a conversation because I'm going to call him the expert. I actually have a couple guys who are quote unquote experts, but he's definitely a common man. And we're going to be talking about homesteading today because I don't know diddles about homesteading other than people live out away from everyone and try to be self-sufficient. So HP, I'm going to start this off. You gave me a list of stuff to talk about, which is really good because I really didn't know where to start. And you said, hey, I've got these three sections. And the first part of it was planning. What started you going, hey man, I got to get out of here. I want to go do this on my own?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here. Good to talk to you again, and excited to be on the show. For me, what really started it was about in 2012. My wife and I, we had a couple toddlers, small kids. We were living in the suburbs and just kind of saw the way the world was going, saw the writing on the wall, so to speak. And we kind of decided, hey, we want to get out of the suburbs, get some more land, and just start trying to be self-sufficient. And we kind of jumped in with both feet, and there was a lot of hard lessons learned, and I'm excited to talk about some of that stuff to hopefully help some of the listeners avoid some of the pitfalls.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. First thing that I'm terrible with, luckily my fiance is not, is financial. I have been, how you say, almost homeless for 5 years, been traveling for work. And the whole time has been major city, middle of nowhere. I worked in where Sheryl Crow lives or was born. And that town is the size of a postage stamp. The only thing around there for 35 minutes is basically that Walmart. The rest of it's farmland. And then if you get over on the Tennessee border, so this is southern Missouri, right where the ball sack of Missouri is hanging down, there is a black powder company. I think it's Dixie Gun Works, and they sell replicas, and they got a museum there. But you go from those areas to cities, and I'll tell you right now, I hate cities. So my fantasy is to have them financially get out. So
yeah, I have no love lost to the
city. yeah. So what did you have to do financially? Did you have money pre-set up? Were you kind of like already set, or did you go, oh crap, I need to save money to do this? What started this whole thing?
Yeah, so we owned a home, like I said, in the suburbs, had a little bit of equity there, not a lot. We were a young couple, young family, young kids, didn't come from money or nothing like that. I'm a business owner. I own a construction company. And at the time we were doing some real estate stuff as well. So I did have some resources in that regard. But, we kind of took a hard look at our monthly budget and just, go line by line and say, like, is this something that's really important to our future? Like, is the cable subscription really that important? Do you need to go golfing every other week?
Answer is no on the cable subscription, especially nowadays.
There's just so many. You start to look and you're like, wow, it's a lot of waste. Yep. Like, does your wife need to get her hair and nails done every other week? Do you need fancy name brand clothes? Do you need a brand new car and all that stuff? So we kind of like decided we're gonna be really lean and live within our means to try to achieve this goal of being more self-sufficient. And actually, you start getting rid of a lot of that stuff, and your life starts to get a lot better.
So side question here, because I am doing Every Man a Warrior with Joe Dolio, and we are on to the second book, which talks about relationships and families. What bribery did you have to do to get your wife ready to get out of town? Or was she just like, yeah, let's get out of here?
I'm really blessed. My wife is awesome. She is 100% on board, and she was at the time. I mean, it's not to say it wasn't really difficult and there was challenges and stuff, but funny enough, she grew up in the inner city. She actually grew up in the hood.
Oh wow.
East Cleveland, and we got to the suburbs, and we had a decent size lot there. It was about an acre or so, and we were starting to tinker with gardening and stuff, but I don't know, maybe it was just the timing of it, having young kids, and that was during the Obama administration where stuff was starting to get kind of weird. Yeah. And we both kind of simultaneously just sort of had like a reckoning where we're like, man, stuff's just, it's not going in a great direction. We really want to do this. Like, she had never done any type of gardening or anything like that. I mean, a little bit with, I think, with her father growing up, Italian household, they do stuff, but
Yeah.
she just, I don't know. It's almost like something like an instinct from within,
Yeah.
and you just want to go and do it and touch grass, like they like to say. And it's been a life changing thing that happened to us, and it brought us closer together. So it's been great.
That's awesome. Is she really good with the growing crops, or are you the crop person?
So funny enough, I grew up, my stepfather was a horticulturalist, and we had a giant garden growing up, and I grew up in nature, Boy Scouts, all that stuff. And I was really hands on with plants as a youngster. But now she pretty much runs it all. I do the infrastructure. I
Mm-hmm.
build the greenhouses and put in the pipes and the electrics and build the sheds and all that kind of stuff. And I help her put the beds together. But once the seeds are in the ground, it's all her. And
Really?
man, it blows me away, like how she's kind of learned how to do this stuff.
I don't want to be a cattle rancher. I know Scout is now a cattle rancher. I'm sure he's done it for quite a while anyway. He's been around animals. My fiance, they have a good chunk, her family had a good chunk of land, and that area now has turned into rich people land. And it used to be just, farmers, ranchers, and stuff like that. So she grew up with cows and mending fences and everything else. She can't keep a plant alive to save her life. I am the only reason there's anything green in this house alive, because I'm like, did you water your plant? Did you check on your plant? And like, I need to take this plant. Like, she put one up on a shelf. She's just like, I thought it was fake. It was one of those succulents. She put it up in the corner in our hallway with a whole bunch of other fake plants. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm glad your wife's really good with it, and she got more interested into that too. I'm going to backpedal a little bit to the financial side. And 2012, so that's... finances aren't probably going to be a horrible thing right then, but we know now buying a house is like, even a small house is about pulling teeth for a lot of people. And you said start making financial plans, trim the fat, so to speak, because we see a lot of those what do you call it, influencer women who say they're off in the woods and they're doing their little homesteading project, and then come to find out their parents are super rich. They stay there for, a couple months or whatever else, and it's really not homesteading per se. How much money did you kind of save up 2012 aspect, and what was your goal there financially?
Yeah, so I don't really remember my exact,
Ballpark's
savings
fine,
amount,
yeah.
but
If you
you
remember.
know, we kind of came into a really good opportunity. Like I said, at the time we had a real estate investment company, some partners and myself, and we were flipping houses.
Yeah.
And so originally this property we bought was going to be a flip, and it was a bank owned home, 5 acres. The house itself was about 3,000 square feet. So, decent house. But it was bank owned, had been abandoned, and it was in rough shape. I mean, it was bad, but we bought it direct from the bank, I think at the time for $70,000,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
nowadays,
Oh, it's cheap now, but that's still not
it's
horrible back then. It's a good chunk of money, but
yeah, but
it wasn't it wasn't
we had to
impossible.
we had to put almost the same amount into it before we could even get in there.
Okay.
And so, part of the financial thing too, which, look, I'm no expert on finances. It's frankly kind of boring, but, you know, I wouldn't say I'm certainly not wealthy or financially independent, but if there's things that the listeners can do to move in that direction, and I think one of the best things you can do is to be self-employed. We had started our construction business in 2008, and kind of never looked back. It was actually a bad time for construction because the housing market had crashed
You are correct, and you were
like
in
a
the
month
housing
after
market.
it
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
but
that's an attest to your capability as an entrepreneur to actually survive that low point. I had a friend who started a gun store and was doing okay, but not great. And then COVID happened, and I don't know how he's still open to this day, but they saved their money because they knew after the COVID and everything else, Trump got in office. I'm sure they're not hot caking firearms out the door like they were during COVID. So, that's an attestament to probably you being good at your job and smart at your job too, which I think is a lot of it.
Yeah, it goes along with kind of what I was saying about living within your means, and that can translate to the business side too, because we had to, we were a brand new business, had just started, and a month later the housing market collapsed, and so you couldn't get credit anywhere, let alone as a brand new business. But now with the financial uncertainty, so we had to kind of learn how to grow our business all on cash and make tough decisions. And, like, do we really need to buy this new saw, or can we buy a used one? And that kind of goes with the financial too. What I was talking about is, not everything has to be brand new. You can buy used equipment, you can buy used tools, you can buy used cars. Like, until you're really established, let somebody else pay that premium. Even like thrift stores. My wife, she loves to get a deal at a thrift store. That's like what gets her going. And I'm like, hey, honey, you could go to the mall or whatever. No, I don't like to spend that much money. It's like, it's just a mindset. Like, think about what's actually important to you and to your future.
Yeah, my wife and I, we run around at used bookstores a whole bunch, and thrift stores, and she's kind of on the side of antiquing, which is not a profitable thing. It's a little hobby, and she is desperately looking for uranium glass specifically, but she wants a uranium cat specifically. So when we go travel, we always look for that. It's crazy as you travel around the U.S., you'll see antiques in different areas. Where we are right now, you can't do any antiquing, and you almost can't do any thrift store, because of the density of the population. And even though there's an old amount of people here, there's no cheap deals, because the people who want this stuff will pay a premium because they have more money. That's just how it is. But we were up in North Carolina, and stuff was like half the price there. So so you found a piece of property, and you talked about the community here, and this is something that's very important. I think we just did an area study. I talked about it on a podcast. I did an area study with a bunch of guys out in Arkansas on Pea Ridge, and I think I built an article. Yeah, I built an article on it too. And I love area studies. I also hate them because you can deep dive them until you bleed out the eyes, or you can do something superficially that's not really useful. But I like that. I like the concept of you looking at the community. What was your process? What did you know what an area study was at the time, or were you doing it just kind of because of your side of your business, which you kind of do when you're in that kind of business, flipping homes and stuff?
It's funny. It's like, I listen to your podcast, and I'm actually reading Mike Shelby's book right now as well. These were all things that we were doing, especially when we were doing like the real estate stuff.
Yep.
Without even really knowing that that's what we were doing.
Yep. A lot of stuff I've done in my life, and then I went to one of Scout's courses. I'm like, oh, like all the radio stuff. I'd done a lot of the stuff from his RTO class and his advanced RTO. SIGINT I didn't. SIGINT I was like, oh, this is all new to me, but I understood it real easy. And you don't realize how much stuff is applicable other areas than just quote unquote the contra, the partisan guy as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of crossover, and a lot of it is essentially just common sense.
Yeah.
And you may be doing this stuff and not even knowing. But yeah, as far as that, like the community, the property selection, they kind of go hand in hand. And look, everybody is going to have a different set of needs. For the most important thing to me is not going to be the most important thing to you. So I think the best way that you need to kind of approach it is sit down with your family, your significant other, or if you're solo, just write it out. What is the most important thing? And one of the things I found, I've got a brother that's looking for a house right now, and the number one thing for him is his commute. He doesn't want to be more than 20 minutes away from his place of work, and that's a pretty common one.
That's what everybody wants.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm 30 minutes right now. I am 30 minutes, and when I worked in Arkansas, 30 minutes was almost 30. You could almost do 35 miles in 30 minutes in Arkansas because traffic's not bad. I'm down here near like Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, and 8 miles is 30 minutes. And I think travel time is also important. And we were talking about the area stay. Sometimes that buffer zone to get away from people takes a lot longer when you're around a large urban area too. And that's awful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, where I'm at, doing construction, and my office is about, 20 miles away or so.
Yep.
But all the job sites, I'm frequently on site, and it's, about a 50-mile radius. So for us, that was not super important. That was not.
You're already used to the transit.
Yeah. I was just like, look, I'm going to drive either way. Like, let's get where we want. Some other big ones that people are looking at, and probably the biggest one for us was, population density and demographics.
What did you pick for that?
Excuse me?
What did you pick for that? For what was your threshold for population density specifically?
We weren't really scientific about it. Okay. So like where I'm at now is about 2 towns over from where I grew up, and actually off the same road. So, I know the area really well. Mm-hmm. But I think our town has around 2,000 people in it.
Okay.
But we're also really close to a large Amish population, which, if you're talking about homesteading,
they're the pros.
Look at the Amish. I mean, that's what they do. They live completely self-sufficiently. They have everything, every possible thing you need. They have.
Yeah, the LDS, and they're a little different. LDS and FLDS, that's the Mormon side of things. I won't go into the politics and the craziness out there, but there are communities out there that are up in the mountains that are super self-sufficient. These people don't come down to town very often. They have everything they need, and the whole community works really well together. I'm assuming yours doesn't. You're not in that situation. The Amish are, and it is amazing. Not only their work ethic, but how much their community works together to do what they do.
It's truly incredible. Yeah. And we actually leverage those resources. Like we have a bunch of suppliers. We go down there to get, agricultural products. Yep. and different things like that.
Probably better food.
The food's good. I mean, you talk about a population that you want to emulate if you are trying to homestead. I mean, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was a big one for us. Some other ones, like kind of going along with that, is a lot of people want to be close with their, close to family and friends and the church and stuff like that. So that's definitely a factor.
Did you check the church? Well, you knew the area, so you didn't have to check out churches. You knew where you're kind of what the churches were around the area.
Well, it's funny. We ended up joining a church back where we moved from. So we're driving like 30 minutes to church each way, but it's a good community. And so, again, with the driving, like it is what it is.
Yeah, it's nothing to you. My fiance thinks 8 miles or 10 miles is a big deal, and I'm like, I drove up to North Carolina, and I do all the driving because she's a passenger princess, and for me, I did 25 hours one time with a cat in my car. Like I used to travel with my cat, and literally I drive for 6 hours. I started at 3 o'clock in the morning because I was with her at the time, and I had to get to the job site in like 2 days or something like that. And I was like, I'm gonna get there and set up, and I just drove, slept in the car, drove, slept in the car, drove, slept in the car, and it doesn't bother me. If I had to make her do that, oh my god, she would die. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like a podcast episode. All on its own.
That's bad. That's bad, poor life decisions. That's what that is.
Well, that's how you learn. But some other things with the assessing your property and what you want to do with it. Obviously, affordability. What do the property values look like? What do the property taxes look like? A big one for a lot of people with young kids is the school district.
Yep. Big deal. Big deal right now.
We ended up homeschooling, so that wasn't really a thing, but still your taxes are impacted by it.
Oh, yeah. And that's interesting, too, because where we are, a couple churchgoers that I know very well, they actually homeschooled their grandchildren. Both of the parents of the grandchildren are teachers, and we're like, they're absolutely not going to the school. So
That's pretty telling.
Yeah, yeah. And again, we're in an urban environment, and it isn't. It has nothing to do about the race, the population, ghettos, and all that other stuff. It's the they specifically said you'll never learn anything in this environment, and I know because she had homeschooled her kids, and when her kids grew up, child married another teacher because they were a teacher, so they were like, nope, not in these schools. So
Yeah, I mean that's kind of anywhere with public schools, even private schools. I do a lot of work in private schools, and you see some pretty wild stuff.
yeah,
And we'll get to the homeschooling later, but my father, once he kind of saw what we were doing with the homeschooling and how the kids were turning out, I'll never forget it. He told me, he said, "This is the best gift that a parent could ever give their child,
yep.
like hands down." And that really stuck with me. And I get chills every time I think about it. He's passed away now, but that, you know, homeschooling is so critically important. If you're in a position to be able to do it, you have to do it. Uh, it's just there's no other choice, in my opinion. Everybody to each his own, but it's been good for us.
I don't have any kids yet, but I definitely everybody that I've seen homeschool and all the other stuff that goes on. My fiance, she used to teach children many years ago when she got out of high school. She was smart enough to get some college credits and go to college, and she started teaching and enjoyed it, but she went on to nursing. And I don't know from personal experience, but it seems like everybody who does it, it's more time with your kids, more experiences, and if you're in the right community too. Some of the parents, I think they do some co-opting thing. I don't know if you do this, but like they have other
Yeah,
people that teach.
early on, yeah, when they were young, we were doing that. The co-op, and also being in the area we're in, there's a very heavy population of homeschool families.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a ton of resources, especially now online.
Yeah,
The whole stigma of like socialization it's a joke. That's not even
the
real.
kids
Like,
aren't even socialized now. Like the kids in the schools are
exactly.
on their iPads. So
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah. So, and that was a tough decision for us. Early on, it was like, all right, I just started this business. We decided, my wife was working at the time. We're like, all right, you're going to stay home. You're going to raise these kids. I'm going to go work my ass off and make this happen. And believe me, it was very difficult early on. There was a lot of
a lot of
like,
growing pains, a lot of
what the
learning.
hell are we doing?
Yep.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, but and we could maybe talk about that more later. But the last point I had on the area study, the property selection kind of category, which is probably something a lot of people take for granted. It's almost an afterthought, but you don't realize until you're out there, is access to utilities. Um,
Mm.
so at our place, the only utility we have is electric.
Okay. So you
And
got no running water, no sewage.
no, I mean we've got a well. The place came with a well and septic and all that, but that has its own set of challenges.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you pump it out every 5 years, or do you have a large system that just kind of?
the
I know you got to
septic,
pump it eventually, but
yeah. So the septic we're on, it's an older system. We're pretty fortunate because you also have to look at what are the county regulations,
mm-hmm.
because some counties are very strict about inspections and all this stuff. Um, our county's pretty lax about it, but we get it. I like to maintain it. I installed an aerator because the old aerator was bad,
Yeah.
but they come and pump it. I think every other year.
Oh
It's
wow.
scheduled.
Okay.
But the well, the well, and that's another topic with water. But
Mm-hmm.
during COVID, I was kind of like, man, supply chain stuff's getting weird. I don't know how old my well pump is, so I went ahead and pulled the trigger on getting a contractor out there to, he replaced the our main pump.
Mm-hmm.
I had him fully scrub out the well and bail it out, and he actually increased our static water line by I think 7 feet
Oh
just by
wow.
cleaning it out. And then also installed a simple pump, like a hand pump,
Yeah.
manual
So you
well.
got to back up.
Yep, which has actually come in handy. We've had a few power outages recently, and that has been used. So,
That's very cool, and that's something I was going to ask you about on the well side because I know a lot of
Yeah.
homesteaders. I've got a guy I'm going to talk to who's out in Texas. I don't know why I got you too confused to where you were, but he's out in Texas because he's friends with the Arkansas boys and the Oklahoma boys, and they. I'm really interested to know how their water is. And I also have a friend whose father was a Green Beret, a whole bunch of other stuff, and he ended up homesteading out in Arizona. And absolutely every drop of water out in Arizona for him was rainwater. So they had big tanks they set up and all this other stuff, and it was an in-depth process for them to keep and maintain water. Plus, if it got real short, they had to truck it in. So the wells peak smart.
Yeah, and that's actually a decent segue into what we were going to talk about with the microclimate and micro terrain.
Yep.
So where I'm at, I don't have that problem. We average over 50 inches of precipitation per year,
Yeah.
and we have a pretty high water table. I think my well is about 90 feet deep.
Okay.
But I could stick a shovel in the ground basically 10 months out of the year and find water. We're actually, my backyard is kind of the headwaters, the farthest upstream headwaters of the Cuyahoga River,
Okay.
which is the main river that comes through Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it brings a lot of nice wildlife, and, water is not a thing. My neighbor, he's got I think a 4-acre lake, and there is absolutely no shortage of water around here. I know that's certainly not the case for a lot of people, but it actually becomes kind of a problem because you have to figure out ways to work around the
I
water.
was about to ask you that because I've lived in a lot of
Yeah.
swampy areas, and water turns into a detriment when it starts flooding everything.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so you have to start figuring out how to form the land, making swales and ditches and, putting in drain tile. And it can become a detriment, like you said, absolutely. But for growing, it's fantastic because, we don't have a heavy irrigation burden because of that high water table.
Yeah, so you're
So,
not pumping water for basically most of your planting stuff.
yeah, I mean, during, figure June through September,
Mm-hmm.
we're running hoses and stuff like that. But
Okay.
the well has never gone dry.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
So
Um,
you're purely off well water for that.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But, it's funny. A funny anecdote. Johnny Paratrooper, you know him,
Yep.
but he's a good friend of mine. And
Oh,
we
good.
would,
I have not hung out with him other than at G Camp. I talk to Mech Medic more and Teddy all the time, but I don't know.
yeah, Johnny's a good guy. He and I really hit it off. We met down at the G Camp back in, I think it was at the AK course in February of 2021.
Oh, I wanted to go to that so bad.
And we've just been friends ever since. We hang out all the time. I mean, I don't know, he's 8 hours away, but we still get together a couple times a year. But I would tell him, I'd be like, man, you don't understand the terrain of my property. I'm on this weird ridge where you've got weather coming off of Lake Erie
Hmm.
and it collides with the jet stream and it literally over my house. And it will be raining in my front yard and sunny in the backyard. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And then I think it was the last time he was out here. He's like, and it happened. He's like, dude, you weren't kidding, man. It's it's like a thunderstorm in your front yard, and it's completely dry and sunny in the backyard. It's bizarre, but
We had
you have
that
to
off the coast
understand
too.
that.
Well, there was one year where I lived. It rained every day on that island somewhere. It didn't always rain where I was, but it rained every day for a whole year just because the water coming off the Atlantic hitting hot air and everything else. So I could totally see that happening.
Yeah, that's the microclimate effect.
Yep.
And for instance, like I said, my office is 20 miles away from my place,
Mm-hmm.
and at my office there will be an inch or two of snow. Maybe at my house, I'll have like 2 feet of snow.
Oh wow,
So
that's got to
we
be an issue sometimes for you.
it can be definitely. Yeah, we had a lot of tree damage one year. We lost all kinds of stuff, but managing those microclimate challenges, you don't really know it until you've been there and like you're living there for a couple years and you
Yeah.
start to notice the patterns.
Yeah.
But one thing we did is get like a weather station, that kind of links up. You have like a thing on the roof and then a screen inside, and it gives you barometric pressure, wind speed, wind direction, temperature, rainfall, and you start to just kind of monitor that and look at it, and you can start to anticipate, like, okay, you see the wind direction, see what the sky looks like. Is this going to hit us or not?
Yep.
Because
You're
a lot
outside all the
of
time
plants
too.
are susceptible to getting damaged.
Yeah, and you're outside all the time. And this is also another thing. You talk about greenhouses, and you've brought them up too, and it was on your list. And that is very interesting because, so I've got a friend, Chris Weatherman, Angry American, if you ever want to find him, but he writes apocalypse books, and he lives.
I love his books.
Oh,
yeah,
do you?
Yeah,
He's the coolest dude. We've been offered to go out and hang out with him, and then there's like Pete Rabatucci. If you like his books, Pete Rabatucci, he writes books. He's the Eden Army guy, and he's got 3 books out. Yeah, it's really good books too. It's a little different than what Chris does. One of these times you got to come down and hang out for either Fallout or the Mountain Raidness that they just did, because he goes every year with Pete. And those guys are the chillest guys, but they've got all the agricultural stuff. They've bought the property in certain areas, and they've done the same thing you have. But they don't have snow at all. And one of my big concerns about this is, I was like, I don't know where I want to go. I kind of want 4 seasons. I was born out in Colorado, which I've said this before. Colorado needs a plague of dragons to remove all the problems out of there. And because when I grew up, you could go out and shoot wherever the hell you want. Now there's signs you're not allowed to shoot here, all this other stuff. And they've got all the stupid restrictions and the crazy stuff. They're coming in from California, trying to change Colorado. And that used to be a homesteading capital, a place to go. And I was okay with the snow. I no longer like the snow because I lived in Indiana for a while. The snow is miserable there. But that's a problem. Snow is water, but it turns into the same thing as flooding for the South. And these guys down here can grow all year, but they have to worry about getting flooded out, hurricanes, and all other stuff. So you have to deal with snowstorms. And how has that affected you? Obviously, the greenhouses probably played a part in this. Has there been anything else that's been concerning?
Yeah, the snow, I'm kind of used to it, but even still, every year I'm like, why are we doing this? I like it. I do like the change of seasons. It's nice because it kills off a lot of the bugs.
Yep, we have bugs all year round, and that was something else I almost brought up and didn't. And I bet that is amazing. You're like, oh, it's cold out, it's nice and chilly, the leaves are falling, and there's not an insect eating me right now.
It is kind of a sense of relief when fall hits. I mean, you know what's coming, winter's coming, but I don't know. Some years are worse than others. It's just something you do. You deal with it. I go out on the tractor, plow the driveway, put my headphones on, listen to a podcast. It's just alone time. It's like cutting the grass, but it's colder.
Yeah, gotcha.
But we deal with it. We have definitely lost some pretty major trees. We had one, I think it was 2019 maybe. We had some insane storm where like 2 feet fell in like 12 hours, and it wrecked a lot of stuff. And so with the greenhouses, the biggest thing is you got to get out there and you got to rake those roofs off.
Okay.
Otherwise they're going to collapse. So
do you have pretty steep angles on your greenhouses, or are they just kind of standard?
Yeah, they're rounded, so they're not the Gothic style. Whereas I think with the larger Gothic frames, it's going to slide off more easily. These are kind of more low tunnels, where if it gets to about a foot and we don't get some sun, once the sun hits, it kind of will slide off. But if it stays cloudy for a couple days and we've got all that snow out there, I'm out there with the roof rake, which is a fantastic exercise, by the way. You don't need a gym membership.
I'll send Wisco Mando out there. He's cool with this. He's cool with the cold weather, but
He
he's
deals
he's
with
trying to
it.
lose
Yeah.
some weight. He's out in
Yeah.
Wisconsin freezing his butt off. He's like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
He's gonna end up losing all that weight, and he's gonna be like, it's cold out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, those are things that you don't start to realize until you kind of live it and
Yeah.
understand, like, holy smokes, this is.
Did you plan your greenhouses out for the sun? Did you think about that when you did it, or was it just, hey, let me fit this on the property?
It was kind of a combo of both. So, like, my property's pretty narrow and long, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm surrounded by forests kind of on three sides. So, we only really had one spot that could work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the only sunny part of the yard. It's also the lowest part of the yard. So,
Oh,
I had
interesting.
to add some drainage and stuff like that. We're kind of in the process of rearranging a few things. And that's kind of going back to the planning thing. You know, Look, life is fast. You've got kids, you've got
Oh yeah.
work, you're doing all this stuff, and you're trying. The growing season here is short, so you're trying to squeeze everything in a short amount of time. And I would encourage people to try to have a master plan. And everything I do here is I attempt to minimize labor. Because early on, this is a young man's thing. Like, I'm in my mid 40s. I was early 30s, late 20s when we started, and it's a lot easier than
Yeah.
like now. Now I'm like, you don't heal so fast,
No.
and so kind of really taking a hard look at a plan, even sketch it out on paper, like your property, like how do you want this thing to look? Don't rush into something just to do it because you feel under pressure to get it done before the season.
That was kind of curious too, and I almost want to come back to this, and I didn't, but I'm going to because I'm an idiot. So you bought a house and you say $70,000, and we put another $70,000 in it. You did construction, you flipped houses, you knew what you were doing with that. What would you recommend to just somebody who's shopping for houses? Would you do a fixer upper, or would you be like, nah, get something that's actually pretty well off? And I'm assuming they had a well on there and a septic tank already.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in place. It's I don't know.
You did your own inspection, I'm assuming, on the house, being like, oh, I know what to look for. Did you know a lot about septic tanks at the time, or no?
No, not I. That was the first septic. Well, I guess I would take that back. I grew up with a septic, but I didn't know shit about it.
Yeah,
I was a
yeah,
little
fair.
kid. But, no, I didn't really know much about that. I had been certified in home inspection, so I knew about that stuff. But I feel like it was kind of like part of it was like the vigor of youth. Like, let's just jump
We're
into
gonna
this,
do this.
figure it out. Yeah, yeah. And now some of the stuff I look back, I'm like, what the hell were you thinking?
And that's why we have you on the podcast, because there is somebody out there right now thinking, I'm going to go out and live in the woods with my wife and my children and not go into town.
That was kind of it, man. And then reality smacks you in the face. But I tell you, the construction side helps because, I think you're in construction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of
Unfortunately.
yeah, right. I'm encouraging my kids not to get into it, but you
Don't
you
do
get
the thing that's
access-
profitable that sucks. Do
right,
the thing that's profitable that doesn't suck, that has AC.
the lowest possible margins that any business could ever exist on is
Yeah.
construction.
Yeah.
But you get access to certain resources that you can leverage.
Yeah.
I'm in commercial construction, so I do like retail and schools and stuff like that. There's a tremendous amount of waste on those types of job sites, and also like on a big demo job,
Yep.
you can get all kinds of materials. So even if you're not in construction, maybe you know somebody that is, and if hey, for instance, on my greenhouses, the end walls of them, I do them in glass, and I just use like old windows. Like, so if
Nice.
say your mom is getting new windows in her home, like, hey, mom, set aside those old ones when they take them out. I'm going to take those. I'll install them on my greenhouse end walls. Like, think about ways that you can repurpose materials, because that's going to save you money, obviously. why spend money if you don't have to?
Yeah, and this is an awesome question. So I've got a buddy at work, love the guy, super awesome. He is a hoarder, and luckily he never listens to this podcast. But he hoards everything. Now I can ask him for any tool on the planet, and he probably has it. That said, he's not organized. Were you very organized when you started this? How do you feel your organization went through this whole process? Because you've been doing this for what, 15 years plus now?
About that, yeah. Organization is something I'm always trying to improve on. And kind of going back to the financial, I don't know. Tools, to me, in my office, we have a whole tool room. Like I have any tool that I need, but I feel like if you need to borrow a tool more than once, you should just buy it and you should own it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I gotcha.
Within reason, of course.
Yeah.
But one of the other ways financially that you can kind of try to get ahead is attempting to beat inflation. If you've got the means and you've got storage room, like I've got a Connex box and a little bit of space here and there. If you're going out and buying something and you can afford it, just buy two of them, you know?
Especially on tool side of things. There's a program now, I know Hilti does it, and I'm not sure. Last company I worked for, super phenomenal people, Mormon side of stuff, but they were just phenomenal company. Those guys always bought tools, and they bought a crap ton of tools because they'd wear out over time.
Sure.
Hilti does a leasing thing, and I don't think the leasing thing's the right way to go, but I may be wrong. I don't know. That's a higher end business choice of things.
Yeah, I've never leased from Hilti. I own a lot of Hilti tools. We usually just buy them when they have promotions. Like if you buy like 20,000 pins, they'll give you a free gun or whatever.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Even things though, like think about, consumer goods like a vacuum cleaner or a sump pump or a dehumidifier or even clothing. Like if you can, I remember a time I bought my wife a really nice vacuum cleaner and she loved it. It ran forever. And I ended up buying another one and I just stuck it out in the Connex. And, a couple years later, one day the thing just kind of blew up and it was like, boom, we already have one.
Yep.
We paid less for it a couple years ago than we would pay now. So that's a good way to try to beat inflation is if you can sort of kind of create your own store of all these different things that you use, you're going to beat inflation because whatever you paid 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago is going to be less than what you're going to pay today, So that's a good way to get ahead. And it makes you more, less susceptible to the supply chain stuff that we saw with COVID.
And the supply chain stuff's probably never going to stop at this point. I think it's going to keep going. And love Trump, hate Trump. The tariff stuff has been one of those cause of concerns. And luckily it seems to be working out. And that's something for Scout to talk about in Dolio. They delve in that a lot more than I do. And I hesitate. I was like, "Whoa, this war is going to be tariff war is going to be a problem." But and maybe it's from what I can tell right now, it's working out really well. I watched everybody say our economy was going to die, and we weren't going to recover for 10 years. And regardless if we do or not, those costs right now are going to be at a certain price. And then you look 5 years down the road, it's just like a house, anything else. It's going to cost more. And there's a diminishing return. I can't own 2 cars right now, especially where we are. We have 2 cars, but like I can't own a spare car. I'd love to buy a nice beater, fixer-upper, and I have family that fixes really old antique cars up, so it's not like I couldn't pull it off. But where the hell am I going to keep it? And it's a nice thing about homesteading, and usually the homesteaders are mostly out of the area of HOAs and cities and small plots of land. And I'm going to talk to X. You probably heard of X on the podcast a couple times.
Yep.
And he's done an urban style of it. So I'm really curious on what he says, because he's growing crops. He's doing all the other stuff. We'll be talking, just chit-chatting online. and he'll go out and check something. He heard something. He's gonna go check it out. The dog heard something and barked, and he's gonna go see what's up. And he comes right back in. But that urban style, like I'm assuming where you are, you don't have to be real covert about anything because you've got the Mormons around. You're obviously not in a major city area, and you can freely do this. And nobody's going to bat an eye at it. So that's interesting, and I can't wait to talk to him. I can't wait to talk to the guy out in Texas that my buddy hit me up with, because it's such a unique thing. But I bet one thing most of you guys are probably doing about the same thing, unless there's a climate issue, is what you're actually growing in your gardens. So kind of give me a rundown what you guys have learned over 15 years of what you make, and maybe what do you not produce but you go to a store for?
Yeah, great question. So everything we look at now is, and even early on, was what is the least amount of labor input for the most amount of production.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at things, for instance, like carrots and potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
They take a ton of work. Potatoes take a lot of space. Both of them take a lot of work. And there's just not the return that justifies it. So
That's interesting.
you can go to the store. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've grown potatoes and
Mm-hmm.
carrots. I love to do it. It's great. But you can go to the store and get carrots and potatoes for like $1.
Yeah.
Like it's so cheap. And it's just, to me, not worth it. So we started kind of specializing, going for the more nutrient dense greens,
Mm-hmm.
as well as fruits. You know, we've been growing garlic. I think that was the first crop we planted back in, like, I think 2012. The same garlic seed crop every year. So we've
Wow.
never even had to buy garlic. Garlic does great here.
I'm
And
gonna pause you. Where did you get your seeds? Because I ended up getting, my fiance's brother is kind of homesteading a little bit, chickens and all that stuff, growing a lot of crops. But I ended up going to Rare Seeds and getting him some unique stuff. Well, we got it for him for Christmas, and I didn't know if maybe you had seen that, or do you go for heirloom seeds, and where do you get your seeds from?
yeah, well, so for the garlic, we got that from a local farmer.
Okay.
But for all the other stuff, so I'm a fan of heirlooms,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't produce as much and they're not as resistant.
Okay.
So, like, heirlooms are great if you are really into seed saving and like the super hardcore self sufficiency.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to maximize production, you got to go with a hybrid.
Okay.
Um, the best seed company we've found is a place called Johnny's Seeds. I think they're in New England, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But it's an online store. Their seeds outperform anything else that we've bought. We've bought stuff from local suppliers.
Yeah.
Another really good one is called Fedco,
Mm-hmm.
Fedco. They have really good organic. They offer heirlooms and hybrid varieties. But for us, you're going to pay a little more, but you cannot go wrong with Johnny Seeds.
Okay, that's awesome to know. And side question on that one, I don't know plants well. My dad was a farmer, and just like you with the septic tank, I learned nothing about farming from him, other than when he was younger. And this is the 40s era, 40s 50s era. He would get in a horse-drawn buggy. They had a truck at the time out in Iowa, and he would go get liquored up and then sit in the horse-drawn buggy, come home, and start his chores on the farm. So that's as much as I learned about farming, other than he'd grow some crops. We did some potted plant stuff and things like that. Do hybrids happen? Can you replant those from the seeds, or is that like a not possible?
No, you can't, and that's
Okay,
the trade-off. So
gotcha.
you're having to resupply your seeds, and if you store your seeds correctly, you can generally store them for probably 3 to 4 years, maybe, and then you start to see diminishing productivity. They're not going to germinate as well. They're not going to produce in the field as well. So you're kind of having to renew your seed stock every 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
But the difference when you're growing a hybrid versus an heirloom is it's pretty stark.
Yeah, you get more plants. They're more resistant to things, and that makes some
Yes.
sense too.
Yep.
And I think what is it? The mustard plant grows or is cauliflower out of it, or Brussels sprouts and something else, if I remember correctly from my biology years. So I think it's all from the same plant, and we've slowly done gene modification through picking plants, and I think it's different parts of those plants, and that's how that all separated off. I'm not for sure, but
Yeah, I think that they come from the Brassica family. And matter of fact, I just put a post up on forum.brushbeater.com about one way that we're dealing with the cabbage worm problem
oh,
with
I
our
did.
brassicas. Because yeah, we do grow a lot of brassicas, a lot of cabbage. We love cabbage, Asian cabbage, all kinds of cabbage here it grows
Are
fantastic.
you
It's really good.
Irish
I'm not,
or
no, but
German? Maybe
I
it's
love
German. I can't
I love to
remember.
eat the stuff. My wife's Italian and she eats the
Yeah.
stuff every day. So, but
I can't stand cabbage. Brussels sprouts were my kryptonite as a child. That was the thing that I screamed about. And anything cabbage related, I'm just like, eh.
yeah. Well, it's very nutrient dense. A
Yeah, it
lot of the
is.
stuff's easy to grow. But so to your earlier question about what are we growing, it's evolved over the years
Hmm.
because you will grow some stuff one year and then realize like this is way too much work or it doesn't do well here,
Yeah,
and then all right, so just shit can it. Like if it's not working, don't pursue
don't
it.
do it
Like
again. Yeah,
go to something easier. Yeah. So,
potatoes
we
are a
grow.
big thing in Ireland. Obviously, they have a better climate for it than a lot of places in the United States, and we don't see coffee beans here for a reason too.
Yeah. Well, potatoes grow fine where I'm at.
It's
It's
just a pain
just
in the butt.
it's not worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
gotcha.
and same thing even with sweet corn. I mean, we've done some pretty nice sweet corn plots, but things that we do are things that we can store over the year.
Yeah.
So
And I think
garlic.
corn's not really even useful as a food source, anyways. So it's just
No, it's just
tastes
kind of
good.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. Garlic and onions. As a matter of fact, our onions come from a place in Texas
Really.
called Dixondale Farms. Yeah, we get our onion sets from there, and they do great here.
I go
And,
through onions all the time, and that was something I'm kind of shocked you're growing because it's kind of like potatoes and carrots. They're pretty cheap.
well, they are, but it's super easy to grow them here because, like, onions and garlic are two plants that you literally don't have to maintain whatsoever. You put them in the ground. You know, Garlic gets planted in the fall,
Hmm.
typically, definitely before Thanksgiving here, but we cover all our rows with plastic, so there's no weeding involved. You stick them
Gotcha.
garlics in there, and you don't even really touch them until about late June when you have to pull the scapes off, and then you're going to start harvesting probably in August.
Okay.
Onions, same thing. You plant them very early in the spring, and then you don't even look at them until late August. Same
That's
thing.
that's very interesting, and I'm assuming the bugs don't really go after either one of those
They
plants.
don't. No, they because it's an allium, they
Hmm.
have a natural repellent. But the one thing that we're doing a lot of, and we're doing it in a greenhouse, which I've never seen anybody else do it before, is berries. So
That's interesting.
yeah, I've got a 70-foot long greenhouse that only has plastic on the top half. So
Hmm.
like the sides, the long sides are netting halfway up.
Hmm.
And I actually there was a post about this also on the forum as well if people want to check it out under the homesteading tab.
If you can get it to the homestaying tab, you do need to you need to sign on. If you're an alumni, you can get on no problem. And I highly recommend that is the biggest thing for the alumni guys. That is and if you know people and stuff like that, you've been to classes or you go up and talk to Scout, meet him in person. He'll get you kind of set up so you can see a little more. But that is the most underrated forum on the planet,
Oh, I
bar
agree
none.
100%.
And
Yeah,
I don't
there's
go there enough. I don't go there enough.
me neither. There's so much great info and just even in the chat. I know the chat's down for some reason now, but
Yeah, I think there's a
there's
lot of bot issues.
a lot of knowledge on that forum, like on every topic. It's great. But with the berries, so I built a 70-foot long greenhouse, and I bent all the hoops, the bows myself. I bought a pipe bender for like $50 and just use chain link fence top rail. It's like
Mm-hmm.
inch and 3/8. It's
Yep.
chamfered on one end, and so it slips in, and pretty easy to do. And I actually talk about it on the forum on how you can do this like very affordably. But we put in that particular hoop. I think I'm up to 10 blueberry plants. I've got 5 or 6 blackberries,
Ugh.
a huge row of raspberries. I've got a serviceberry bush in there, and then a whole bunch of strawberries.
I don't think I've heard of a service berry.
Yeah, a serviceberry is similar to a blueberry. It's a smaller fruit,
Okay.
very high in nutrients.
Hmm.
Like it's incredibly healthy. It's almost maybe a superfood, but they're not the best tasting, and they're kind of gritty. But what so throughout the summer we will eat the fresh berries all summer long.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we can,
Yep.
and then we have so much extra that we'll just put them in mason jars and stick them in the freezer.
I was gonna ask you, do you do any canning? Because I literally have run into so many people who can and or pickle a lot of stuff.
We don't do a ton of that. We do a little bit of canning. Again, it's like a high labor thing,
Okay.
so we don't do a lot of it. But we do actually dehydrate a ton of stuff. Like
Okay.
we've got a couple of those Excalibur dehydrators, which I highly recommend anybody if you're going to buy a dehydrator, buy an Excalibur. Just
I've
you
been
know,
debating about doing a freeze dryer. It's kind of it's an investment in currently where we are. It's like,
yeah, the freeze dryer is tough. That's a lot bigger than a dehydrator.
yeah.
But it's the buy once, cry once. Like if you're going to buy a dehydrator, get the Excalibur. It's
Okay.
totally worth it.
Yeah, I've owned like
Um,
3 or 4 of the cheap ones over time. I love to make food, and because of my
yeah.
camping background, I would make stuff and dehydrate it and just take it out
Oh,
hiking.
it's great. Yeah. So like you could dehydrate anything really,
Yeah.
but like so the berries we'll freeze them and then we'll make smoothies like all year long,
Okay.
and the kids love them. They
Yeah, I bet.
absolutely go crazy for them. I like it. You could use them in baking or cereal or yogurt, whatever.
Your natural
Um,
sugars. You're not. And I do have a question. Are you in the sugar beet area of the world, or is that more
we do
North
not.
Dakota?
No,
Okay.
no, we don't have any sugar beets here. I mean, maybe I don't know. I've never tried to grow them.
Don't. That's where
Yeah.
the high fructose corn syrup comes from,
Okay.
and it's
Yeah.
ugh, and I'm just thinking, oh, you've got all this nice, wonderful, sugary plant products. We've got natural sugar cane down in Florida and other places, and it's not too hard to grow down here because of the climate. But that's an interesting way to get your sugars and your fast carbohydrates up in your area. And the cooler thing is like I bet you have you done these plants year round in a greenhouse yet, or have it has just been seasonal for you?
Well, kind of both.
Okay.
So certain things, for instance, and the main thing that goes into our greenhouses, our enclosed greenhouses, are things like tomatoes,
Hmm.
peppers, cucumbers, basil, melons. We vertically grow our melons,
You got
and
any rosemary?
oh yeah, we
Okay,
got a
good.
bunch of rosemary, yeah,
It's
chives.
one of my favorite things is rosemary. I
Oh, it's
cook
great on
everything with
some
it.
chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so what it does with the greenhouse, at least in this location, is it extends your grow season.
Hmm.
So, um, we'll be harvesting some years tomatoes and peppers into November, where everybody else that's growing outside,
Yeah, you're done.
they were done harvesting at the end of September.
Yeah.
So it gives you like an extra 6 weeks on both ends too, because you can plant earlier, which means they fruit earlier. Um, you know,
Have you gotten 2 cycles out of that with a greenhouse or no?
No, we're not. We don't have enough sunlight for that
Okay.
here. So it's mostly sunlight. So what we do in the winter time, when all the fruit plants are done, is we will start to plant lettuce, spinach, arugula. All the nutrient dense greens like
Hmm.
that. That's kind of our thing. Is we grow a ton of greens here. Also herbs, certain herbs that are cold crops.
Yeah.
in November when we rip out all the fruit plants, we'll just start planting greens and lettuce. I love romaine lettuce. Like we eat a lot of salad.
Yeah, we do too now. I've got the fiance into actually eating salad. So my other thing is mushrooms. So, and do you guys have Merle mushrooms up there?
We do, yeah. Now, I can't stand mushrooms. My wife absolutely loves them, and so does my daughters. But we've been tinkering with the idea of maybe getting a mushroom kit because you can just do it like in an old log in the woods.
You can. There's also, if you're interested, there is an Audible book on mushrooms, and this lady did a deep dive into that craziness. And if your wife really likes that kind of stuff, it might be a good book. I also read a book on rust too, which is absolutely absurd, but I found out a whole bunch on engineering of like Coke cans. The precision quality of a Coke can will blow your mind, and how we looked at it. So the funny thing is, those can openers back in the day that had the little triangle and then the round part? Yeah. So that was because Coke cans and all these Pop Tops couldn't be engineered sufficiently well enough back in the day, and that's how you opened every can. And I remembered as a child we had a lot of those, and then as I got older they just kind of disappeared over time, and now everything's a Pop Top, and I'm just like, what happens when the manufacturing isn't as good? What happens when things get hard and nobody has these can openers anymore? But you won't need them because guess what? You probably got ball mason jars. Ball makes everything. I don't know if you knew this or not, because I'm sure you've got Ball mason jars at your house.
I've got stacks of them.
Yeah. They make all the Coke cans. They make everything. A little side note. It blows my Pepsi, everybody. Anything with a can, almost everything comes from Ball. And they all started as a mason jar company, but they were smart enough to diversify themselves.
Well, it makes you wonder, though, like, what is the lining of those cans? Because Coke is such a corrosive product. Like, what do they have to put into this inside of the can so that it doesn't eat through it?
They have to lacquer it, and the worst thing? Well, two things. One, if you turn all the snowbirds, apparently in Florida, bring their beverages down, throw them on the shelf, or leave them at the house down in Florida, and then they go up.
Sit all year, yeah.
Well, they sit on their side, and I can't remember the specific, like, where the seam is. I can't remember what the actual width of it is, but that Coke over time actually eats through it, and a lot of people come home and they're all exploded because the carbonated acidity eats through it eventually and breaks them open. But the one canned food that is the worst and only lasts 7 months is beets.
Interesting. I did not know that.
That's why there's no, I don't think I haven't seen one. They, at the time of the writing of the book, they didn't have any Pop Top beet cans because they'll just eat right through everything. So, yeah, a little side note for no reason.
Well, with canning, you really got to know what you're doing, even if you're doing your own home canning. Yep. There is definitely an art to that, and unfortunately, we never really had learned about how to properly do it. So, like, we'll do. My wife will make like refrigerator pickles, she calls them, where it's like kind of like a quick can, or she'll pickle the garlic scapes or something like that. But
pickling apparently is super easy and super safe. I'm gonna have X. I'll have X do a deep dive on it because he pickles everything apparently, and he's talked to me about it. He also talked about the microclimate and microterrain, which we kind of touch base on here too, and that's very interesting.
It's a big thing for sure.
How many rolls of plastic do you go through a year?
Oh geez, so we use a lot of different types of plastic. Matter of fact, I wrote a whole article on this, and it's on survivalblog.com. That was one of the biggest resources for me, was that website.
I remember that website.
I love it.
Chris Weatherman started his book on that one, I think.
That website,
or the Survivalist blog or something like that. I can't remember which one it was.
That survival blog, James Wesley Rawls, who's been on with Scout, that site is actually how I discovered Brush Beater,
Oh, okay.
because he reposted something back in like, I don't know, 2018 or maybe even earlier.
You need to send a link of that to Patriot Man if you haven't, because he'll post it on American Partisan. There's a lot of stuff, and maybe when we get this podcast, I'll send me the link and I'll have him co-do it. So we've got a little bit of a homesteading day or something.
Sure. Yeah. No. So I wrote this article. I didn't even really plan out like to write an article about plastics, but I just realized I was like, we're pretty reliant on this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So a quick anecdote on that is when we first moved out there, we kind of didn't know what the hell we were doing. You know, it was just like stick some seeds in the ground and
See what comes up.
well, we realized very quickly that your biggest enemies are going to be obviously weeds,
Mm-hmm.
and then pests
Yep.
and rainwater. And so
Interesting.
my wife looked up a local organic farm
Mm-hmm.
that was close to us, who was running a CSA, which is community supported agriculture. It's almost like a subscription service for food, you
Okay.
know, and you basically pay a monthly fee and then you get whatever they're harvesting that month.
That's interesting.
Um,
I'll have to check that out.
and and that was one of the first things she did. And she went out there, and it was an older couple, you know, and they've been doing it for years. And she kind of started to mentor under them, or apprentice, and learned all these amazing techniques. And that was the game changer for us. We started realizing, like, okay, there's these different plastic products you can use, which controls the weeds,
Mm-hmm.
controls the pests, protects the plants from rainwater. Because believe it or not, like, the whole reason we made that greenhouse for the berries is because rainwater absolutely pulverizes the fruits. And
Interesting.
so, yeah, keeping them undercover just it changed everything. So,
We have a lot of blackberries in the southeast region, and those things grow everywhere. And I never thought about it, but you're right; they're almost always under other trees.
yeah, because the rain hits them and it just destroys them. So,
Interesting.
we you can I don't know. That's probably the biggest expense that we have in the food growing is our various plastic products. But
Mm-hmm.
I buy it from the Amish. It's pretty affordable. I stock it. I stack it deep because I know that this is a resource that is manufactured, that is susceptible to supply chain stuff and price fluctuation. But um, we've kind of figured out some ways to reuse a lot of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in our on our rows, the actual rows where the plants grow, we use a two-sided plastic film. It's probably 6 mil, maybe. I don't remember the thickness, but one side's white, the other side's black. And so depending on what crop you're growing,
Mm-hmm.
it's either white up or black up. If it's a cold crop, you put the white up. If it's a hot crop, black up.
That's interesting.
Um,
That's something I wouldn't even think about.
yeah, it's easy to cut and work with, and it completely eliminates any need to go out there and weed,
Hmm.
because that's the biggest labor sucker is
Yeah.
having the weed stuff, and it's a big turnoff for a lot of people. So we're like, all right, we're going to eliminate weeding.
Nobody loves weeding. No one. I don't
It's the
know a
worst.
person.
And where we're at with all the precipitation, it like the weeds just take over.
Oh
And
yeah.
like, oh
Yeah,
god, it's awful.
anywhere you live, and there was a guy. I remember this guy on YouTube, and I haven't tracked him for years. Called I think it was Eat the Weeds, and that guy literally was, one of his comments was weeds grow everywhere. Learn which ones you can eat.
Yeah,
And
it's funny. My oldest daughter, has really been getting into like natural healing stuff, and
mhm.
she's got these books, and she was out all weekend like foraging and making her own teas and tinctures and stuff just from essentially weeds. I mean,
Yep.
dandelions, and we
Liquid
have a lot.
Rabbit's wife does the same thing. She's totally into it.
It's awesome because it's right there. It's like
Yep.
God already gave you this. Like, just take advantage of it.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I would say if you want to know more about the plastic stuff, go on Survival Blog, and there's a search box. You can just type in plastic culture.
Okay.
It's spelled just how it sounds, plastic culture, one word, and you'll find my article there. It really goes pretty deep into the various products we use, why we use them, how we use them, and It's really made a difference. Without it, I don't think I'd still be doing this stuff.
Be back to being a normal citizen in a grocery store.
Just laying around all day. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's all this stuff. Like I said, it's a young man's game. It keeps you young. It keeps you limber. You get out there, you get exercise. You're in God's creation. You know, you're
You're
enjoying
eating
nature.
healthy food. You're not eating
Oh
something
yeah,
that's super processed.
and with the kids especially too. Like a lot of kids these days are just raised on junk food and
Yep.
sugar, and like my kids love to eat all these healthy things, you
Yep.
know, and that translates later in life. You know, they've got cousins that are like, you know, the same age or a little younger, a little older. And the difference, not only physically, like just like body type, but
Yep.
also their intellect, their, their personality. Like food is medicine. And, you know, so many of these diseases and stuff, if you can avoid some of these awful toxic foods, um, you know, it's going to make a difference. You're going to live a lot healthier. So that was a big part of it too. Why we decided to get into it.
So we covered the vegetables and stuff like that, and I'm definitely we're gonna have to have you on again to talk about this, especially after the other guys chit chat about this too. You bring up chickens, and they are. I love the taste of chicken. I absolutely can't stand them. They tick me off. My fiance's brother has a great setup, got a nice coop and stuff like that, but I was abused by chickens. Abused by chickens because my half sister's uh, family got into chickens, and they were the egg laying chickens, and then there's a whole just a everything from silverfish to I ended up having to scoop out all this stuff, and it was a mess. It was just a god awful mess. So you do have chickens, I'm assuming, because you brought that up on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what brought you to chickens over, say, a goat or sheep or other stuff? Just because you got five acres, obviously you can't have a cow. Well, you could have a cow, but it's a little much.
Yeah.
They're
So
hard.
chickens are like the stupidest animal that
Yeah,
you could imagine. I mean, they're so
they
dumb.
piss me off.
They do. They piss me off too. They're annoying, really annoying. But you know, early on we did do some a couple batches of meat birds,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I don't know. That's another one of those things where it's kind of a lot of work for maybe not enough reward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we've kept chickens probably consistently for the last, you know, 12 years or whatever, just for eggs, and
Eggs. Okay.
it's a very reliable protein source.
Yep.
We eat a ton of eggs, and they're night and day difference from store bought eggs. I mean,
Yeah, they
it's
are.
not even. It's almost like it's a different animal or
Well, they're
something.
also not as big generally too, but they're still good. And
Well, it depends on the breed. You can get some
yeah,
pretty big eggs, yeah.
you
But
can.
and the feed that you're giving them is a big thing too.
And you get some abnormal eggs. You get some with like giant yolks. Some are super watery, and it's a experiment because he does this. We get eggs from time to time, and he sells these eggs. And I the one thing I didn't like about it is they're such a pain in the ass when it comes to recipes. I'm like, do I need an extra egg? Because all the new recipes are for store bought large eggs, and I realized sometimes you need a little bit more egg or a little bit less. But again, fiance doesn't cook, I cook, so that's that's a whole different story. And I don't think it's a bad thing though, and I like his eggs. The flavor of the food comes out better when you do it, but sometimes you need like one or two more eggs. And I
Yeah,
think it works
yeah.
out way better. The one thing I will not recommend is some of the egg laying chickens do not taste good when you have to get rid of them.
Yeah, they're only for stew. I mean, you would not eat that
They're
as like
awful.
meat.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Sometimes the stew. Ugh. Ugh.
Well, there's a reason that meat birds are harvested
Mm-hmm.
at 6 weeks. You know, because
Yeah.
they don't have a chance to toughen up their muscles. But as far as the egg laying birds go, again with the reducing labor thing, like I've gone through so many different iterations of chicken coops
Mm.
and different ways of feeding them and watering them. I will say that for like a family of four, like what I am,
Mm-hmm.
10 birds is more than enough,
Okay.
unless you really want to get aggressive with it and try to sell them. Like you're not going to make money selling them. The eggs, it's kind of just like an expensive hobby that, you'd be lucky to break even. But having a reliable source of fresh protein
Mm-hmm.
on hand at all times is really great.
Do you get feed for your chickens, or do you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no. So the first couple of years we would like let them free range, but then you realize they're up on the patio, they're shitting everywhere, they're eating your landscaping, and you're like, all right, no, we're done with this. A lot of people there are really excited. Oh, free range chickens, It's like, no, you're going to learn pretty quick that that's no fun.
Miami is full of free range chickens, which is funny as hell. When we go down, I try to stay out of Miami.
Yeah. So
Absolutely try to stay out of it. But there are regions of Miami where the Haitians and everybody have moved into. There are chickens on everything, and there's just bird shit
it's
everywhere.
disgusting. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a really disgusting animal. Um,
I'm so glad I'm
so
not the only one who feels like that. Like the fiance's like, "Oh, I can take care of chickens. Chickens aren't a problem." Like, good, you're doing that. I'm not
yeah,
touching the
have
damn
fun with
things. Just yeah,
that.
I will plant all the plants. I will do the weeds. In fact, at this point, you saying, "Oh, plastics prevent me from weeding," even better. I'll do all the. What do you want? Do you want cabbages? I'll do cabbages. I won't eat
Yeah,
them, but you can have. I'll take that back. I do kind of like bratwurst and
sauerkraut.
sauerkraut. So
Yeah,
that I'd probably do.
yeah, that and coleslaw. I
Yeah,
mean, I'll eat the stuff fresh. I don't care. Like I make a pretty mean stir fry out on the Blackstone.
that's another. Yeah, that's another thing. Stir fry and yep, I can do cabbage and stir fry.
But yeah. So with the chickens, we have a local Amish mill that we get our feed from. Super cheap, organic feed. They love it. They do great with it. Um, if you're gonna have egg laying hens, there's this debate. Some people are like, well, you got to have a rooster because the fertilized eggs are better, or this or
Mm,
that. Like, a rooster is a big pain in the ass, especially if you have little kids. Like,
yeah.
we had this one rooster. I think they named him Frank or something, and uh, my wife would tell me like, "Oh, this, Frank he's such an asshole." I go outside and he's like trying to attack me. I'm like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, right." And I was home one weekend, and my daughters were outside in the yard, and they were very little at the time, and the chickens were free ranging, and I saw this rooster like literally tried to peck my daughter's face. Like he flew up and was like going after her.
Yep.
I went right inside, grabbed 357, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
So and roosters are really loud. I will say the one benefit to having a rooster, especially if your birds are like outside of
Mm,
a sheltered coop, is that they will kind of herd if they say there's a hawk or something, some kind of threat, a predator.
hmm.
The rooster does a really good job of flocking all the hens in to protect them. So that's a good thing if you
Do you
go
have
that
any
route.
other animals? Like one of the guys, anti pattern, I think is homesteading. Ish. He's got cats, and I think he's got dogs or something like that. Do you have any other animals, or is it just chickens and that's it?
I had a really good dog named Remo. He was a Weimaraner. We
Hmm.
had to put him down a couple years back. I'm
Yeah.
still bummed about it. And I don't. He was such a good dog that I don't know that I'll do another dog, but we'll see. Um,
I had a cat show up, and he traveled all over the U.S. with me, and he's end stage life right now. So,
yeah, the cats are
uh,
great. So cats, we at one point we were at three barn cats. Um, in talking about pest control, we had a major problem when we first moved in because the property had been like so neglected that
hmm.
there was like so many rodents everywhere,
Yep.
and we got the cats. And the key with the cats is you get them as a kitten and
Yep.
you raise them outside, so they're basically like a wild cat, but they still live
Yeah, they still like you. They're like, oh yeah, I like you,
you feed
but
them,
I'm here. Yeah.
you got to make sure they still got their claws and all that stuff.
Yep.
And females are the best hunters for the cats, definitely. Like the males, they are lazy and they just annoy you. But We had a
I've
couple
got a
of,
male who's lazy, so
oh yeah, he's just annoying. He's like up your ass.
mine is totally fine. Mine is chill as hell. But he used to come home with he tried to teach me to hunt, so he'd bring things home alive, and I'm like, oh,
I tell you, man, you get like three of them together, and I
mm,
would sit out there and watch them, and they go out and hunt, and it's literally like African safari. I mean, they will like hunt as a team,
yep,
and they bring in home all kinds of big stuff. Like they would bring home full size rabbits,
oh
and
wow,
um, so the rodent problem went away pretty quick once we had some mature cats that had lived there for a few years. So I definitely think like because even in the garden,
mm-hmm.
not just like in the buildings, but like out in the garden, you got a real problem like voles,
Yep,
mice,
yep,
field mice, stuff like that, and having some good hunting cats to go out there and control that stuff is absolutely worth it.
nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see here. I could go on for hours on this too. We hit that. Pest control. You do mostly plastics. Do you use any poisons and stuff like that, or have you tried to shy away from that, or is there stuff
So
you're like,
yeah,
yeah, I still use this?
as far as insecticide goes, there's obviously a lot of debates about that, and people are sensitive about chemicals in their food.
Mm-hmm.
One of the products, we try to do everything totally organic and natural here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a product that I think everybody should have is called diatomaceous earth
Yep.
or DE. Yeah,
Yep.
that is a fantastic product to use. You can even add it to the feed of your animals.
Really?
Yeah, to help with intestinal problems.
Oh.
I actually put it on the cat food, but
Hmm.
uh, you get the food grade stuff. But yeah, we use a lot of diatomaceous earth. Neem oil is huge.
What'd you say that was?
Neem oil,
Neem oil.
NEEM. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's. I just bought a product recently because we're having a problem in our asparagus beds with some kind of beetle. I don't remember what it's called, but it's called. This product is called Triple Action, and it's an organic, natural product. It's got neem oil and parathrins,
Mm-hmm.
and
Pyrethrins, maybe.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, yep. And it's like a concentrate. You mix it with a gallon of water with a couple tablespoons, and you just spray it. I spray it on the fruit trees, the apple trees, pear trees. It's like a broad spectrum insecticide
Mm-hmm.
and fungicide. So we'll get rid of, like powdery mildew, stuff like that.
Hmm.
I think it's definitely worth it. For a long time, we were like, we're not putting anything on our stuff. And then you start to get just these problems with insects over the years, and you're like, we got to do something. So it all depends on what your threshold is in terms of, are you willing to put some type of product on your plants? And if you are, you got to try to stay as natural and organic as you can, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can't remember, and I'll just side note this. I would check. I remember the stuff that we used to get from the military to coat our uniforms, and the name escapes me, but I think there was pyrethrins in there, and it's one of that One of it is really bad for cats to be around, so just heads up on that.
Mm.
It may not be pyrethrins, so whoever's listening to the podcast can go on X at glogistician. You can message me and go, hey, you're a dipshit. It's not pyrethrin. It's blank. And I'm probably wrong, but I remember the chemicals that we coated our clothes in for the military for insecticide is actually super damn dangerous for cats. I found that out. Luckily, I hadn't coated any of my stuff, but I bought some of it, and I was like, oh, I can't use this, so. But.
Yeah, so that the plastics are a big help for the pests. Really, it's us against the animals. So
Yeah.
part of the plastics too is the mammals too. We have a ton of deer and rabbits.
That was my other question. I wondered if you'd put up, because deer will jump over damn near anything that's not 50 feet tall and electrified to death.
Yeah,
So do you have a fence around your property, or are you just like, I'll do it a different way?
we kind of fence in certain areas, the critical areas. For instance, like you would think onions, right? You got a
Mm-hmm.
patch of onions. Like nobody's gonna mess with onions. And turns out the deer, they don't want to eat the onions, but what they do want to do is lay in them. So it still wrecks it either way, you know. So I'm like, we don't need to fence these onions; they're onions, you know.
Yeah.
But then you look in the morning, you go out 6 a.m. and there's just like deer laying in it, rolling around, and you're like,
And you're just like,
oh, what's
hey,
going
I've
on?
got free meat, but you're killing my onions.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And I don't know if you can shoot them right there, but
Yeah, so that's a constant struggle. So you find creative ways to sort of be resourceful and like discourage them. You
Mhm.
know, like we don't have giant 10-foot fences all around the property, but we do find ways to kind of section off stuff or, you know, just discourage them from coming around.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just send like a warning shot across across the bow. You know, I'll just take the 22 out and be like, hey,
Pop. Yeah.
shoot
Shoop.
one over their head, you know. But they come back. So
Yeah, they're always going to come back to anything that is edible. It's the funny thing is rabbits are also the same way. Really, really interesting. If you've got cloves, if you grow cloves, that's all they want to eat. So yeah,
cloves or clover?
clover. I
Yeah,
think, yeah, clover.
yeah,
They will eat clover until they're just like every time I've seen a bunch of rabbits has been in clover patches in the middle of the
yeah.
woods.
We do have a lot of clover around the property, and I have like an unlimited supply of rabbits. Um, there's some years where I'll stack like 20 of them. You
Whew.
know, rabbits are not really hard to shoot. They
No,
just
they're not.
sit there and look at you. You know?
Yeah, they're just like, what's going on? Oh, great. Yeah. But
But
there's
they
not a
keep
lot of
coming.
fat on them either, and that's part of the problem.
No, yeah, exactly.
I,
They're you can't survive on them because
no.
they have basically zero fat.
Yeah. That was something I think World War II Germany found out real hard, and the Russians, because they were hunting all the rabbits out for food, but a lot of people were having medical issues because of that. So
Yeah, you have to get another fat source and add it to it, like
chicken,
pig fat or
chicken,
yeah.
the animal I don't want. Well, I mean, on the upside, I'll remember to put the onions out and let the deer come in.
Yeah.
I eat onions, so I'll kind of be pissed, but I'm also really happy to have a deer. So
I had never known that until I saw it. Like, why are these deer just rolling around in this onion patch? And I don't know what it is. I don't know the science behind it, but I
yeah,
just know that
maybe they're
they
using
will
it as an
just go out when they
anti-flea
do
thing. Maybe they're trying to get rid of pests.
it's that's a great point. I mean, it could be. I don't know.
Again, one of our 200, 300 listeners, one of you guys knows. Tell me, educate
Yeah.
this idiot.
Yeah, another thing we have is like an unlimited supply of raccoons.
Oh,
God, I think one year I maybe shot like 30 of them. I mean,
are they
they
real
just keep
detrimental
coming.
for your stuff? Do they
Um,
really try to get into it, or are they just in the
they,
area?
they don't so much mess with the plants. Well, I take that back. They do. So like I remember one year we had this fantastic corn crop and sweet corn,
Hmm.
and we went out that night. We're like looking at it. You know, the tassels were starting to get brown on the top. We're like, all right, we're gonna harvest this tomorrow. Well, guess what? The coons knew that it was time to harvest them too. And they came in and they ripped off every ear of corn and took one bite out of each one.
Oh,
And I'm
oh,
like ready for a jihad against the coons after that because I was so pissed. Um, and they mess around in the garbage and the cats and like
yeah.
they you know we use one of the fertilizers we use is like a fish emulsion based
Hmm.
fertilizer that we do like probably once a week throughout the whole summer, and they smell that fish, and so you plant like a new transplant, like a very fragile new small plant, and they're not even going after the plant, but they smell that fish and
They want the fertilizer.
rip everything out, you know. So
They're looking for the fish that's not there.
yeah,
Uh,
and so I have all kinds of traps that I use for the coons, but
that
you
doesn't
know,
bother the cats. You haven't had a problem
oh,
with
I
the cats?
use the well, I had one cat that was pretty stupid and decided that she was gonna try to get it. So I use these. It's called Duke's dog proof coon trap,
Hmm.
and it's essentially like a little small can with a spring loaded, uh, like a trip lever inside of it,
Yeah.
and you just put something inside of it, and they stick their hand in it, they trip it, and then their hand gets caught,
Yeah.
tie it to a post or something, and
Okay.
it works great for trapping the coons. I have not had a lot of luck with the live traps, like the box traps,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I know what you're talking
I'll
about.
set those Dukes traps out there. And I remember one time I had a post with two of them on it, and I went out in the morning. There was a possum on one of them and a coon on the other, and they both looked so miserable. They were like they had been fighting all night and trying to.
Yeah.
I felt bad, but
Do you have a problem with possums, or do you let them just do their thing?
I only have a problem when they come in my barn or like in the chicken coop,
Okay.
and then I'll get rid of them.
That
But
makes sense.
like possums have a lot of beneficial attributes. So
That's why I asked, because I didn't
yeah,
know
I
if they
wouldn't.
affected the agricultural side too much. I know they'll screw with chickens and some other stuff, but
No, they just go for the feed. Like they'll
yeah,
weasel their way into the coop and try to eat the feed, and they won't. They're not like an aggressive animal. They're
no, they're
very
not.
timid,
Yeah.
But no, we've got our share of foxes and hell, I had a mink come in
Oh,
and slaughter all my chickens one year. Like
oh,
the mink, actually, they don't even eat them; they just suck the blood out of them like a vampire.
that's
Um,
creepy.
yeah, we've got a pretty diverse amount of wildlife here. A lot of wild turkeys, all that stuff. So
That's nice. Yeah. We our deer in the south are super small, and it blows my mind as you travel around the country. Like the moose, I was up in North Dakota, and we are building a geodesic dome agricultural storage facility, and
that's awesome.
the moose that came out of the corn stalks, and the corn stalks there are not small. I mean, you've grown corn, so you know how tall they get, and um that moose was a small one, and he came out just jaunting down the road. Like, holy crap. And we're used to, like, I'm going to call it large dog sized deer. So the deer are
Hmm.
standing taller, but their bodies aren't much different than like a 60, 80 pound dog size
Yeah,
animal. And then you go out to other places and they're 120 pounds or 200 pounds. You're like, what is this monster? Or I was near Zion National Park hiking, and these three monsters came out of the woods. And for a second, I'm like, moose. And then I'm like, no, that's not moose. A, they don't have antlers. B, that's a deer. Wrong ears, wrong face.
right.
But the size of it, I was like, holy crap. So that's interesting. Anything else on the animal side that you've learned that you're just like, oh,
Well, I've always wanted to get a donkey. My wife is not into it. One of my buddies over there in Maryland, one of Johnny's buddies, Bibitor, he's on the forum, but he's got a couple nice donkeys, and I'm pretty jealous because they're actually from what I understand, they're a pretty good like guardian animal.
they're
They
really good at that. And
Yeah, they chase away the yotes and stuff like that.
the
We do have
fiance
a
had that.
ton of coyotes around here. Actually, we've got quite the coyote problem, and it's in Ohio. It's open season on them all year round.
Yep. So is
Um,
North Carolina. We were at the G camp, and he's got a problem over there. Down here in the Florida area, they still have the cattle, and they have sheep and some other stuff, and they have a problem with feral dogs sometimes where they are. They're on the edge of the Everglades too, so. But the feral dogs come in and attack, and they ended up getting a donkey to protect the sheep, because the cows generally aren't going to be messed with by coyotes and dogs per se. It's the baby calf that's the actual thing that they have to worry about it. But the cows generally are okay. And they had an attack on their sheep, and after that he got a donkey, and nobody's been bothering him since. So
yeah, it's amazing how like nature just has ways of figuring stuff out, and that's kind of a theme. It's just like if it works, go with it,
yeah.
Um,
Doggy is some work though. They're not just, oh hey,
well, yeah,
set it and forget it. But
it's
and I
like
see why your wife's like,
yeah.
eh.
Well, she knows because I work all day, and it just fall into her bucket.
And she's like, no, yeah. Does she
Well,
have
one
this?
thing.
Does she have the same feeling about chickens as you do?
Well, so we kind of like automated the chickens to the point where like during the summer we do a gravity water system where I only
Hmm.
have to fill the water like every couple weeks, and then the feed, I have a feeder that I made. It's essentially just a PVC pipe that like a 4-inch pipe, and I hang it from rope
Hmm.
inside the coop, cut a little slot in it, and then fill that up. And they won't. See, the problem with chickens with their feeders is they go in the feed and they'll just shit everywhere
Yeah.
and scratch it all out. And
Yep.
so I've I had met this old chicken guy, and he kind of showed me how he did it, and I was like, wow, that's a good idea. And so the feeder works pretty good, and then we have a pretty good nesting box set up where it's essentially basically labor free. The only time is in the winter. We got to take warm water out for them and get the eggs before they freeze. But
Gotcha.
the chickens, there's a way that you can manage chickens where it's not a ton of labor. You know.
And my fiance's brothers seem to do okay with that. I think he's got some more of the pre-purchase stuff, and I'll harass you afterwards for a picture of the PVC pipe thing because that's something he may want to do. He's got a box where they kind of nest in and just lay eggs, and then you just pop open the back door and the eggs are right there for you, so it's not that hard compared to having to go into a coop and pick them out every day.
Right. Yeah, we bought a manufactured product called it's actually a website, bestnestbox.com, and that is the only way for me now. Like after having done so many different versions of chicken coops, like I've literally probably built 10 different coops over the years.
Mm-hmm.
We got this bestnestbox.com, and I was just telling Johnny about it because he's getting into chickens,
Oh,
and he's
doesn't he?
asking me
Isn't
all the
he very urban? Isn't he pretty urban?
no, his property. He's like, I wouldn't even say it's suburbs. I mean,
Okay.
it's semi-rural where he's at
Okay.
now. But
I vaguely know him. We've met, but I haven't really gotten to know him personally. So
yeah, he's a good dude. But he was just kind of picking my brain, and I was like, if you buy one thing for these chickens, buy this best
buy
nest
this
box
box, yeah.
because the way it's designed is it's kind of on a slope, and
Mm-hmm.
so. Because what happens is you might get a broody bird that's in there and wants to
Mm-hmm.
stay laying on them, or if they are protein deficient, they're going to start eating the eggs,
Yep. Yep.
And so this thing has kind of got like a padded bottom and a slope, and then the egg comes out, it rolls down into a trap door that they can't get to. And
Yeah,
so
and you pop it open in the back.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what he's got.
Oh, it's great. I mean,
Yeah.
it is,
And
yeah,
it's
it's
like
worth it.
got some
Yep,
rubbery texture to it. Yeah,
yep,
I think that's
yep.
exactly what he's got. That thing's
It's American made.
phenomenal.
Yeah, it's American made, which I like. And
Yeah.
it just simplifies it. It's got a flip up bar in the front, so if you want to block them out, like if you get a bird that's starting to sleep in there, you just
Hmm.
flip the bar up; they can't get in there.
Okay.
So yeah, it's all about like the automation, reducing the labor, and that's kind of
Yeah.
that's the theme.
Yeah, that we're probably what's going to probably happen here is we're going to end up talking about all this stuff. We're going to have people listen to this, and thankfully, it's not going to be just me talking this time. I just did one with Rabbit. We did a hot wash of Soma, and I have that pretty much done. So that's going to get posted here, and then fast forward a couple days. Hopefully, this one's coming out, and then you're hearing me talk about the Soma one. The Soma one blew my mind, and this is another one I don't know crap about. This all I see is people like, "Oh, I'm going to go live out in the woods," and all I'm thinking is how freaking hard it is to live out in the woods, basically by your lonesome. And I'm a big tribe person. The whole lone wolf thing doesn't quite work out, and it sounds like you've met a balance of like, hey, I'm out of the way, I'm doing my own thing, I'm producing my own food, but I'm also getting other food. I'm assuming you eat steaks from time to time and go into town and get stuff as
Yeah,
well.
that's another thing. Absolutely, what you said, 100%. Like we're not like some hermits or something. Like my daughters have their own punk rock band, and so we're going to like shows every weekend. Basically, they're playing. But yeah, the steak. I know a cattle guy that's 8 miles from my house, and I
Yep.
buy a half a cow from him every year, and that's a great way to beat inflation too, and to be resilient against supply chain. Like, get yourself an upright freezer, meet somebody that does cattle, and
Yep.
the meat quality is going to be way better than store bought, and you're going to pay less.
I had to twist my fiance's arm. She was done with steaks, and I had a 20-something-year-old boss who was former Mormon, and that man made the best steaks, one of the best steaks ever. And I made it for her. I've done 2 steaks. Just side note on the steaks. One thing that I love to do is go out camp and you get some nice oak, and you get those coals super super hot, and you put that steak on the coals for about 2.5-3 minutes. Flip it over, keep the coals on it, do it again, and then you wrap it in tinfoil and keep it warm so it's still cooking to whatever temperature you want. But those coals suck up all the juices. And I learned this recipe from a guy he was out in Arizona, acquaintance person. He would plate about $100, and this is 2010 time. So, like, if you went to dinner, you spent about $100 per person there. And they had little cast iron pans that they put all the coals in, and then they do this steak thing on it, and then they'd actually grind up the juiced up coals into a sauce that they put on top of the steak. But he said,
Sounds amazing.
yeah, and all you do is you salt it, you pepper the hell out of it on both sides, because you're putting it in coals and a lot of the salt and pepper falls off. But when you put it on those coals, make sure they're super bright hot. Like, you ever blown on a campfire, and you know how the coals get real hot, but you don't have a ton of flames coming up. It's what you're looking for. Boom, boom. And then the other guy who I was talking about, who was out in Mormon country, he got me into applewood rub. And that has been a game changer for the urban dwelling cast iron pan cooking individual that I am at this point. So I want to grill more. I want to get out there and like do that, but it's where I live is where I live at the moment. So
You're making me hungry just with this talk. It sounds amazing.
if you ever get a chance, and obviously you live out there, if you've got some good wood or hickory or something like that, that is one of the best steaks I've ever had. We go camping, and I did it every year with Liquored Rabbit, and he did it for his wife on a camping trip. And we also, if you put the mushrooms under the steak in the aluminum foil, all that juices fall into the mushrooms. And if you keep the mushrooms heated up, oh my God. If you like mushrooms, obviously you don't, but tell your wife.
Right. No, yeah. I have one of those big green eggs, the smoker thing, and I love to do a lot of outdoor cooking. All summer I'm cooking outdoor. I've got a Blackstone, and I got that. And
did you get the Blackstone before G Camp or after G Camp?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had it for, gosh, probably 6 years now, maybe 5. I don't know. But, oh, man, it's great. You could throw 3 pounds of bacon on there and cook it all at once. And, I can make a whole thing of stir-fry.
All the grease comes off. You don't have to deal with that. It's easy to clean. You scrape it for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, if the kids have friends over, I could literally make breakfast for everybody all at the same time. A dozen pancakes, and I love it.
We were at the Eden's Army authors event, which everybody brought RVs, and we sat around campfire. We ended up getting a hotel because I'm a dumb animal, and I take 3 cats around the damn country. Don't do it. Don't do it.
You're a crazy cat lady.
Yeah, I am. The 2 of them are phenomenal riders, and the other one we have to drug up. But we got a hotel because we didn't have anyone at the time to watch the animals, move to a new place, all the other crap that goes on. And I'm like, I am not risking these animals. And the fiance wouldn't have let me be like, oh, let's just go pick a random person to take care of these animals. Now we've got a pet sitter, so I don't have to deal with that anymore. But we were out there, and he had a Blackstone out there. He cooked food for us and all this other stuff. It was just phenomenal. Had a little gun range. And I like the homesteading mentality you got. Just, hey, I'm going to go out back and shoot and scare off the animals. You have the ability to do that. Plus, you have a normal job. You're not living as a hermit out there. So you have some finances, and obviously you paid attention and been prudent with it too. So
yeah, it's great. That was one of the things is like I love to shoot, obviously, and I've got a little range out back. We've got a backstop at 70 yards and another one at 200.
Oh, nice.
And that was one of the things, if I want to go outside and take a piss in broad daylight and nobody could see me, like, it sounds dumb, but like having that privacy, it really is kind of empowering, and it lets you just kind of get into your groove, do your own thing. But again, like, I got family that's 15 minutes away. And you
Yeah.
brought up a good point about the pet sitting thing where,
Hmm.
when you're homesteading, it's something you might not think about, but if you got animals, or even with the greenhouses, you can't leave. You can't.
Not going on vacation with this.
Yeah, unless you have somebody dependable. Like with the greenhouses, during the summer months, you have to open up the windows every day, and you got to water them every day,
Hmm.
unless it's all automated, which is, can be
Expensive and a pain in
can
the
be
butt.
challenging. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we've got family. My wife's cousin lives right down the road, and we've got some really close friends close by, and so hey, we want to get away for a weekend or whatever. You know, get your people over there, kind of show them the ropes, and who knows, maybe they'll kind of start getting into it and be like, oh,
Hand him some eggs, give him some cash, and be like, "Hey, can you watch
absolutely.
this?" Yeah.
You say,
And,
hey, whatever you can harvest while we're gone, you can have.
oh
You
wow,
know what I mean?
that's a way to go too. And the interesting part about that too is, and I'm talking to some Arkansas boys. I want to get a couple of mine, but with the climate of everything going on politically, it's hard to get people to come on who feel safe enough to chat sometimes. And I want to keep people private, or who want to be private. But these guys, some of them have austere locations they can go to. It's family property, etc. And the community building is really hard. And these guys are people who met online, and we forget nowadays, like, meeting in person's the big thing. It's quote unquote the game changer that's been normal forever, but now everybody just goes online, talks about homesteading, talks about this, and obviously this podcast is kind of the same way with me. I don't think I'm gonna pull off homesteading, uh, but I'm probably gonna live in an area where it's feasible,
Hmm.
and transition over to that when I can. But it's interesting too. You're like 15 minutes away from family, and we're not telling you where you are. B, I'm not going to ask you either on air or off. But it doesn't sound like you're so far away from humanity that you can't go find a hospital or something like that. But you're far enough away that you actually know your neighbors.
Yeah, it's a sweet spot, and it's not that easy to come along, So especially now, even in my area, property values have gone bananas,
Yeah.
and no, absolutely. And you talk about the online stuff. I mean, some of my best friends in life that I have are dudes that I met on the Brush Beater Forum,
Yep.
um, and then I go and train with them.
You go and meet in meat space.
Yeah, Snake is one of them.
Mhm.
He was active on the forum. Johnny, like, these are dudes that I met just chatting online, same as you.
Mhm.
And then you go train with them, and then all of a sudden now, like, our families are getting together. We're having barbecues
Yep.
and hanging out, and like, it's totally doable. And I absolutely encourage people. You can't be so afraid. Like, I know Joe Dolio talks about it a lot. Like, oh, everybody's a Fed. It's like, you're not that important. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and that's true, but it's good to think that way too, I think.
sure, you want to be secure and everything
Yeah.
like that,
Be
but at the
white
same
side
time,
about your conversations.
you can't be afraid to walk out of your house either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to go out and you got to meet people, and that's something else. Is when you meet people in meet space. One of the things that I've said, probably on this podcast before, but I have certain people that I hang out with that says that guy's good or that guy's bad, because I take people at face value. I'm like, oh, I forced myself to be friendly because I was such a lone wolf mentality kind of person, and part of it also is like, hey, I'm traveling on the road for construction jobs. You're by yourself. You make friends on the job from your coworkers, but the moment you leave that work, maybe you talk to them online, maybe you see them in another job, but the next job after 2 months, whole new set of people, and it does create that, I call it lone wolf stupidity. There's a
Yeah,
joke.
You build a shell around yourself because you have to.
Yeah, and I think Vet TV made one. There's two wolves inside of you, and they're both gay, and it's like two guys like wrestling on the ground, and there they are, and it is that way. And I've met so many people that are that way, but it's interesting too because like the brush breeder forums, the going to the G camp, taking a course, and you don't have to go to brush breeders course. You can go to Wyoming Survival has a radio course, and other places that have certain courses that you may be interested into that aren't super cost prohibitive. Go meet these people. This is your community. The church is another thing, and I've said this before. I used to be a pro-Christian atheist. I'm not anymore. I'm pro-Christian. I'm a Christian, but like I was atheist. And part of it is my experiences with kind of big box churches, those big ones with tons of people in them. And that's what I was introduced to, and I was like, not my swill. But your churches are community, and you'll find people in your churches that are like-minded. Some people won't be interested, but you'll find those people. And find your locations that you have that community with. If you're a younger person, and I know most of us on the forums in the G camp are either wifed up or something like that. But if you're a young man and you're out there, there's two things I learned. If you go and look for women, don't go to bars. They're all doing the same damn thing. Yep. Go do a hobby that has women in it. Like, may sound kind of gay. Go learn to dance. There's a ton of women learning to dance. There's like 3 guys all the time. You can be pretty damn ugly and dance with women and learn. So same thing. I want to find a prepper community. Maybe I go to some gun stores. Maybe I go to a shooting event like Wisco Mando's going to his, I want to call them, they're like a shooting course, but they're also out in the woods doing almost like a combat little event where they go out and they got to track people down. They'll use blank fire and stuff like that, just like we do at the G camp. And it's just a small community doing that. And that's where you find your friends and other stuff. So if you don't want to go to church, there's that option too. And that means, hey, you can go out and do the homesteading stuff. And those people may not know crap about homesteading, or maybe you meet somebody who's like you. Hey, I've done this for 10, 15 years. Go get the white and black plastic because this helps with this plant. And you can do it with this plant and you can reuse this. And it's phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the church stuff. We joined the church where we're at, and I kind of sort of formed like a security committee because there was really nothing in place. And the guy that I joined with to do that was, he's a police officer, and he didn't really know kind of how I am with the training, because probably for the last 5 years I've been training at least a couple times a year formally. And like you said, it doesn't have to be a brush breeder; it can be wherever. And he called me one day. He's like, "Hey, there's this local gun range up the road. They're doing a Stop the Bleed course. You want to go to it with me?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And it was awesome.
Did you post that on X?
I don't think I did. No,
okay.
This was several years ago. But they had like the very good props for the course, like with the section of flesh that pumps the blood out. Yep. You have to pack the wound and all that stuff. And, he was all about it. They showed us tourniquets, all this stuff. And this is just like a regular guy, not into the partisan stuff necessarily like us, but there's common ground there.
Yeah.
And like you said, like it could be in the place you're not necessarily looking. I met my wife at work. Like I was running a carpentry crew. We were redoing a hotel, and she was running a wallpaper crew. And and this was 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was just like, absolutely. Like you're going to find stuff probably not where you're necessarily looking.
Yeah. I think the social aspect of things too, with all this prepping, is one of the big things. And it's one of my weak points. I know Dolio wants to poke me in the eye, and some other people do, because I love to voice chat on our chat groups. But it's the only thing that has kept me from not being that weird, kludgy person in the corner. And I have some friends who literally, I got a good friend. I don't talk to him as much anymore. I say, "When are you going to get out of your mother's basement?" He was there in Somalia right before Operation Gothic Serpent went haywire. So he was a medic over there.
Wow.
And he ended up marrying a stripper and all this other stuff. And now he's like a born-again virgin because of that. And I'm like, what are you going to get out of your mother's basement? He has basically crippling societal issues because he's constantly online and he just won't go out. And that's why I'm like, hey, push people, get out, go to these courses, go do this stuff, find the things you love, and find the people you like. I like, maybe one of these days I'm supposed to take the fiance in an RV. I might come by your way and check out your place.
Anytime, man. You're welcome to stop by for sure.
But I think we've been doing this for a little while. That's our 54 minutes. Any other thoughts or things you want to close out with? And I'm definitely going to have you back. I want to have X on because he's a Virginia region, and he does a little bit of the urban side of stuff. And then I've got another guy, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, in South Texas, and I really want to see how he deals with the water and all the other stuff and see what animals he has to deal with, which is probably armadillos, which are god-awful animals to deal with. But
yeah, no, I absolutely want to thank you for having me on. It's been great. I was really excited to talk about all this stuff and catch up with you.
It took me a long time to get you connected. I sent you a message and I was overloaded and it didn't go through.
That was me too. I'm pretty loaded up on my schedule. There's a few topics that I'd love to talk about in the future that we didn't really get to. The heating with wood thing is something that
yeah,
I could go for a good half hour about that, and I know we don't have time, but the homeschooling, and maybe getting into more of the specifics, as you get feedback on this episode, and we can kind of see what people want to hear about.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of generalizations, but I like talking about this stuff. Like I've been doing it. I'm going to continue to do it. I enjoy it. It's a nice way, like I said, to get out in God's creation. Like I spent the whole weekend outside with my wife over Mother's Day, and we were doing all, planting tons of stuff, making beds and this and that. And it was just like, that's how I like to spend my time. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah, it's a job, but it's not a job. They say get a job you love, but sometimes you can't. And maybe this is the job that you love too.
Yep. Yeah, it's a hobby, but it's also like very gratifying.
Food and all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll hit you up. I'm gonna hit you up and be like, hey, what do you normally go to the store for? And we hit that, the potatoes and the carrots, because of that. So I'm really interested, and the big interest is going to be the wood thing, because I haven't had to live on a wood stove situation ever in my life. And I know a couple people, even an instructor I had who lives, his whole house is heated by a wood stove. And I need to ask you, like, what wood do you have? What's the process? Because that's a logistical thing for preppers and survivalists. And most now don't have a lick of sense on how much effort it is. And we've had fireplaces and stuff like that, and because my father lived on it, he knew how to do it, and he'd set up wood that way. But things you don't learn because it didn't matter.
Yeah, so heating with wood has been our primary heat source. Going back to the beginning of the show where we talked about access to utilities, we don't have natural gas. Heating with wood has been our primary heat source for about close to 15 years. So I've got a lot of experience.
We're gonna go deep dive that because I'm curious.
Yeah, so, little teaser for the next one, but you can really get yourself into trouble if you don't know what you're doing, and but you can also make it easy. There's ways to reduce that labor and get more production out of your time, and I'd be happy to talk about it. So.
Oh yeah, I'll ask you where you got your stove, everything else, because that's a deep dive. And I love wood production heat. I think it's awesome, and I've done it camping a lot, and I've been to cabins where we went out to a cabin because I'm trying to get the fiance out of the city and be like, hey, here's some woods, and she hadn't been much out of Florida, and I took her up to North Carolina, and the house was heated with normal electric heaters, but they had a wood sauna, they had a wood jacuzzi, they had a wood fireplace and everything else like that. And from South Florida, you don't want heat. That's the last thing you want. But anyways, I'm gonna round this up and close this off. We've been going for 2 hours. I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm glad we hooked up, and I can't wait to get the other guys involved and maybe do a round robin sometime where we get everybody and be like, hey, what's your area? And have all three of you hit it up. So,
Yeah, sounds good, man. It's been great. Thank you again for having me on, and I look forward to talking again.
all right, HP, you have a good night. Everybody else, talk to you later. Keep your shovel sharp and don't be a loot drop.